Good evening, and welcome to tonight's Fort Wayne Community School Board of School Trustees meeting. We begin tonight, as we do each night, with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we have roll call of members.
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Julie Hollingsworth, District 1.
Jennifer Mathias, District 2.
Ann Duff, Member at Large.
Raleigh Booker, District 4.
Noah Smith, District 3.
And to my left, we have Dr. Mark Daniel, Superintendent of Fort Wayne Community Schools, and Angie Filler, Clerk of the Board. And I'm Maria Norman, Member at Large. Tonight we start with awards and recognition. It is recommended that the board recognize Snyder High School's speech and debate coach, Mark Tojo, for being the recipient of the Indiana Schools Speech, Debate, and Association New Coach of the Year Award for 2023. The ISSDA New Coach of the Year Award is given to an Indiana coach who has completed between 1 and 5 years of experience coaching, speech, and debate. Veteran coaches nominate new coaches who have made an impact on speech and debate in their area. The award includes a certificate and a $500 check to be used to improve the opportunities for the school's speech and debate program. This coach's methods have yielded positive results as he coached his first sectional championship and led his school's team to its strongest sectional finish in 11 years. Mark Tojo was also voted to the Northeast Indiana District Committee in 2023. At this point, I will welcome Linda Alt, President of the Indiana Schools Speech and Debate Association. You have the floor.
Well, she said everything I was going to say. So, on behalf of the Indiana Speech and Debates Association, as president of that association, I congratulate you. I am also proud that you're in my sectional tournament too, and so congratulations, you and your team. Thank you so much. Your award.
Principal Hissong, did you want to come up for a picture?
Come on, Mr. Hassan.
Yeah, come on, Mr. Hissong.
Thank you.
Now, the important question is, do you have a speech prepared? Okay.
That's the kids.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. This now leads us to our consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes from the regular meeting on September 11th, 2023, vouchers and payroll, the personnel report, and required disclosures. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Noah. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Dr. Daniel, was there anything that you wanted? Okay. All right, we have no old business, so that brings us to new business. Steve, is your computer working? Pass.
Hold on just a second.
I got it.
Okay, thanks, Julie.
So this is a Snyder High School South America trip. It's recommended that the board approve an international trip to South America's Colombia in June of 2026. The trip will include stops in Bogota, Medellin, and Cartagena, and provide opportunities to be immersed in the rich culture, to learn about sustainable and cultural practices, including the importance of coffee, experience the abundance of diverse and rare fruits, learn about ecosystems, and visit UNESCO heritage sites. Students will also experience art expression by being immersed in an area with traditional architecture from the colony. houses, fortresses, cobblestone streets, and tunnels, as well as explore the art of famous painter and sculptor Botero. Students will have an opportunity to explore islands and coral reefs, where they will attend dance performances and learn about the strong African influence in the Caribbean area of Colombia. To top this amazing trip, students will visit the famous Transformation City that just 20 years ago was notorious for crime and violence, is now a forward-thinking and hopeful metropolis, considered one of the great success stories of Latin America. Sylvia Pereira, teacher, and Chad Hissong, principal, are available to answer any questions.
Thanks, Julie. Is there a motion on the floor?
So move.
Second.
Thanks, Raleigh. Thanks, Steve. Any questions for Ms. Pereira?
So are we planning so far ahead for students to save up for the trip?
Yes. So I run right now. I'm finishing up with a Costa Rica trip. We're going to Costa Rica at the end of this school year. I have 40 students signed up, and they're asking for more. And I said, I can't take more than 40. So I have 10 adults signed up to go as well, so I should have enough help. But I decided to run these trips every 2 years so that it gives them enough time to obviously save the money and run all the fundraisers, and then also so that they get 2 years of Spanish so that they are better prepared to explore more and understand more of the culture.
So what would this trip run a student?
Say that again?
How much would this cost?
It's at around $3,500. It includes everything.
How long will they stay?
10 days.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Sounds exciting.
Yes. Yes. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next up, we have the Digital Learning Coach Mini Grant. Steve?
Yes.
Thank you.
It is recommended that the board approve the acceptance of the Indiana Department of Education's 2023 Digital Learning Coach Mini Grant in the amount of $9,996.96. The funding from this grant allows district technology coordinators to attend the Association for Supervision in Curriculum Development. It's a conference, and this conference will help coordinators further professional development around project-based learning and universal designs for learning information. And you have additional information about it, and Eric Lover is here to answer any questions about this money and this grant.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Jennifer. Any questions for Eric?
Could you give us an example of what you think a best practice and curriculum might be to try and implement into best practice in virtual? Do you have anything in mind?
The biggest thing is focusing on student skill development and building capacity for demonstrating certain skills. Sometimes in learning environments, there's almost an overemphasis on content knowledge and not so much development of the literacy skills necessary. So for our purposes, it's going to be learning how to best communicate the best practices for education in virtual and blended environments.
Is this for all grade levels or high school?
All grade levels.
Thank you.
Approximately how many people will be?
There'll be 4 of us going.
4?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Where is the conference?
I believe Washington, D.C.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ann, could you do the Secured School Safety Grant? Thank you.
Recommended that the board approve the acceptance of the Indiana Department of Homeland Security 2024 Secured School Safety Grant for $100,000. A secured school safety grant was created in 2013 to increase the safety of Hoosier schools. The program is dedicated to state grant fund that provides matching grants to school corporations, charter schools, or a coalition of school corporations. These funds will be used to support the continuation of school resource officers at Fort Wayne Community Schools. And Mike Manuel, Director of Security, will be here to answer our questions.
Thanks, Ann. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Raleigh. Any questions for Mr. Manuel?
Maybe not a question, but I would just point out that the school safety grant program does not take into account the size of a district or how many schools you have, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
This is a grant we've received in the past, Mike?
Yes, yes, sir.
Is this the same amount that we've received in the past, or?
Yes, we've increased the amount in the last 2 to 3 years because it's based on a matching system and what was eligible for the grant. But now that we've added an SRO and they've changed some of the information to get the grant, we were able to get all $100,000, excuse me, yes.
So this has got to be just a fraction of what we spend for school resource officers every year?
Yeah.
What is the budget for that?
So this year, it came in at $172,290 for is what our portion of. We pay half of the officers' base salaries,
Okay.
and then we pay an entire salary. So entire salary of one of the SROs, they're actually our employee, their county officer, and we pay that entire deal. So we spend more than what we receive.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that comes out of our operations fund?
Yes.
And then we have to match this 100,000, is that right?
Yes.
Did you say?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I'm sorry, I did have one more question. Mike, is this a competitive grant or do we just have to apply for it?
It's competitive. This year, the state was able to fund everyone that applied for it. That was their advertising. That's my understanding that they advertised. But in the past, it was a very competitive grant. We've received it all the years it's been available. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, Title I, Part A, Basic and Neglected Grant. It is recommended that the board approve the acceptance of the Title I, Part A, Basic and Neglected Grant for the 23-24 school year from the Indiana Department of Education in the amount of $14,743,234.54. Title I is a federally funded program designed to enable schools with high concentration of low-income students to provide opportunities for children to acquire the knowledge and skills in the state content areas and to meet and/or exceed the state performance standards for all children. A school building's eligibility for Title I services is primarily based on criteria related to the family income. FWCS determines target areas based on the number of students receiving free or reduced and/or direct certified government benefits. In 23-24, Title I services are supporting all 33 elementary schools. All of the locations also have Title I funded therapeutic counselors to support student needs. Title I funding also provides the nationally accredited pre-K programs in 23 locations, serving just over 700 students and families. Students who receive free or reduced lunch and live in FWCS Title I school attendance areas but attend non-public schools are provided supplemental instruction through a resource teacher, tutor, an instructional assistant, or a service provider. Title I eligible students from 30 non-public schools received services funded from the 23-24 Title I grant. Additionally, FWCS students who are experiencing homelessness and students who reside at Crossroads Children's Home, an institution for neglected children, receive supplemental educational services through Title I. This grant is managed by Kimberly Brooks, Title I Director, who who's also here to answer any questions. Is there a motion on the floor?
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Jennifer. Any questions for Kimberly?
I do, Kimberly. Happy Monday evening. To be clear, it says we're looking to approve the acceptance of the grant from the Indiana Department of Education, but as noted and Maria read, it's a federally funded program, right?
Correct. The grant operates on more or less what they call a pass-through system. So it's from the federal government, but it passes through the state of Indiana.
And then of the 23 schools listed with pre-K, how many of those are full-day pre-K versus half-day pre-K? You know that?
17 full day. And I believe we have 10 half day. Some of those schools have 2 classes in them, so that's why it doesn't quite equal 23. But I'm pretty sure it's 17 full day and 10 half day.
Have we found that we get better participation on full day versus half-day?
Absolutely.
And why is that, Kim?
I think we're serving several needs with that. One, of course, academics, and it supports families and their needs. Yeah.
Great insights, thank you.
Other questions for Kimberly?
Kim, how many, so this also provides funding for non-public schools
Correct.
for students who are free and reduced lunch. So how many
Correct.
students would that be?
It varies from year to year. This year, I believe it's about 1,200 students who qualify. So we get counts of students who attend non-public schools but live within our attendance areas.
Right.
And then we look at the children who would receive free or reduced lunch, and those are the children who are eligible. So it's about 1,200 kids this year.
And in pure units, and how many kids do we service at Fort Wayne Community Schools?
Our number, I believe we're just under 9,000.
Other questions? Thanks, Kimberly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next up, Title I, Part D, delinquent grant. Raleigh, can you do that one? Okay.
It is recommended that the board approve the acceptance of the Title I Part D delinquent grant for 2023-2024 from the Indiana Department of Education in the amount of $163,411.92. Allen County Juvenile Center and Lifeline Youth and Family Delinquent Institutions receive funds through the Title I Part D delinquent grant to support instruction and transitional services for clients, students who reside in the above-mentioned facilities. Instruction is designed to sustain academic growth during residency and to close the achievement gap. Both credit coursework toward graduation and recovery and/or tutorial services are available. This grant is managed by Kimberly Brooks, Title I Director, who will answer any questions.
Thanks, Raleigh. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Raleigh. Any questions for Kimberly?
How many kids do we serve in this program, Kim?
It's definitely not a static number because it's, whomever is incarcerated at the time. So it averages between maybe 50 to 60 students, I would say, at ACJC at a given time, but that fluctuates. Lifeline is smaller, maybe about less than 10 there, but that's it's a hard number to grasp because it's just when the students are, assigned to the facility at the time.
So is this, Kathy, is this over and above our foundation and complexity and all that? Okay. It's about $3,000 per kid. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Thanks, Kimberly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Next up, we have rooftop unit replacements at various schools. Noah, can you do that one?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's recommended the board approve the following construction contracts for ESSER rooftop unit replacements at various schools. 2023 BP1 project at Brentwood, Holland, Northwood, Portage, Shambaugh, and Washington. We see various bids. There's also 2023 BP2 project at Indian Village Northcrest Tolls and Studi, along with various bids. Our good friends at Automated Logic are the single source providing bids, I guess, on a couple of these. A. Harley's and Son is one, G&L Corporation is the other. The project consists of the replacement of rooftop units at 10 schools. Primary Engineering designed the project. The rooftop equipment was previously approved in the June 26, 2023 board meeting. These contracts represent the installation. The project will be funded by the elementary and secondary school emergency relief grant, also known as ESSER. The existing building automation systems and controls are proprietary and Automated Logic single source vendor for this work. Darren Hess is here to answer questions.
Thanks, Noah. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Steve. Any questions for Darren?
Were you surprised, Darren, that we received only 2 bids on these projects?
I was happy to get 2 bids on these projects.
Oh, really?
Mechanical contractors, electrical contractors in particular, are completely booked because of all the ESSER projects and other things happening in Allen County. So we were hoping for competitive bids with 2. 3 would have been great.
Is this for like air conditioning units then, or what?
So these are the small single zone units, like at an elementary gym. We're replacing 2 existing heat-only units and putting in heat, ventilation, air conditioning units for the gym or cafeteria. So it's some cleanup work at some of our buildings to get them all air conditioned.
So you mentioned having to get 2. Do you have a sense of how our peers have done and fared in relation to these kind of ESSER projects, Northwest, Southwest, East Allen?
Yeah, we're very similar. We're struggling to have multiple bids.
Have they done as many projects as we have?
They have not. No, we nearly 74 million. I think they're in the double digits, but much smaller, probably a third.
Okay. Just curious. Thanks.
And you said these are units that have air conditioning and heating, and they're replacing ones that only provided heat.
Some of them, yes.
Some of
So like Holland and the gym, the rest of the building's air conditioned except for the gym.
Okay.
So this will be now have air conditioning. So.
And it says that we approved the units in June, so we have all the units in, and this is just for installation?
Correct. They're not received yet, but they're in order.
Okay.
But we're hoping to get them by the first of the year, so we have them in time to replace them during the summer.
Okay, awesome.
And you said once these are installed, all locations will be air conditioned in all parts of the building?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions for Darren? Thanks, Darren. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up, we have North Transportation Center underground fuel storage tanks. Steve?
Yes, it is recommended the board approve a contract with Blue Energy Equipment for the purchase of underground fuel storage tanks for the North Transportation Center. The amount is $160,414. The purchase will provide one 25,000 gallon underground fuel storage tank for diesel fuel and one 6,000 gallon underground fuel storage tank for unleaded gasoline. The tanks are being pre-purchased now to ensure delivery due to the long lead time for the purchase of this equipment. The remainder of the project, including removal of existing tanks, installation of new tanks, and additional parts, is expected to be recommended at our meeting on November the 13th. And we were able to secure pricing available through Sourcewell, which is a co-op purchasing organization. State law doesn't require public bidding for purchases made at or below approved co-op purchasing entities. And we're going to use money from the this year's general obligation bond fund to pay for this. And Darren is still here to talk about this with us.
Thanks, Steve. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
Thanks,
Second.
Ann. Thanks, Raleigh. Any questions for Darren? Darren, was this project on the calendar, or is this due to the fact that we moved everybody out to North Transportation Center?
It was not on the calendar. Once we started really getting into what it all has to happen with the consolidation, this is a liability out there. Those tanks are nearly 50 years old, so prudent before South Transportation goes away that we replace these so we can use South Transportation next summer to still fuel for summer school and give us that flexibility.
Okay.
Are these tanks bigger than the ones that are?
They're roughly the same, full size. At North Transportation, we just have diesel. By adding an unleaded tank, that will give us some flexibility. Right now, we only have unleaded at Catalpa, and we added some new buses this year, the smaller yellow buses, and those are unleaded. So, they're in a Catalpa in the morning with all of our trucks, as well as a lot of smaller white buses. So this will just give us more flexibility on the north side of town, but it's the same aggregate amount of gallons.
I had a question for Kathy, friend, and I noticed the co-op organization in this instance was Sourcewell. Do we utilize several co-ops to purchase various items?
Actually, Darren uses a co-op for some utilities.
Yeah, we use about probably 3 or 4 different cooperatives throughout the year. Wilson Foundation, this one. Purchasing does for some equipment, furniture. So we utilize probably at least 3 or 4 of them on an annual basis.
I know NSBA, National School Boards Association, and the Indiana School Boards Association promotes buy board, but I don't know if I've ever seen anything that we've purchased through that co-op.
I don't know. Purchasing normally investigates those options, so I will definitely run that by Rod to see if he's looked at that. But you can see, often you'll see some of these that come forward, says we did it through a cooperative agreement. So
I know that because of our size, in many instances, co-ops don't provide as much of a break that maybe a smaller school corporation might take advantage of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you say North Transportation's 50 years old?
Roughly.
Is it?
So this is the first time we've had to replace a fuel tank?
We've replaced others in the past, but not these.
So how many fuel tanks
There's
are there?
3 in the hole right now, so we'll go back with 2. But one of them has been replaced sooner than the other 2 have. The underground storage tank for the unleaded is the one that is not operable anymore, so that's what we're adding the new one for.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks, Darren. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Can I ask one more question though, Darren? It doesn't have to do with whether we're approving that or not, but you mentioned the smaller yellow buses that are taking the regular fuel right now. So did they have to then leave the transportation center and go to Catalpa to fill up each time at this point?
I'm pretty sure those are also unleaded because I know I've seen them in our shop. So I'm not 100% positive, but I believe they are the unleaded. They must do it on their route, after their route before they come back, so midday.
Okay.
So usually, it's not early in the morning, early in the afternoon that we see them.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wondering where they were fueling.
Okay. Next up, we have a public meeting to discuss the collective bargaining agreement between the Fort Wayne Education Association and FWCS. It is recommended that the board conduct a public meeting to discuss the tentative collective bargaining agreement between FWCS and the FWEA. Indiana Code 20-29-6-19 requires that this board hold at least one public meeting to discuss a tentative collective bargaining agreement prior to ratification. FWCS properly noticed this public meeting and posted the tentative agreement between FWCS and the FWEA on the public website as required by Indiana law. Earlier this year, teams from FWCS and the FWEA informally bargained the renewal of their contract and came to a tentative agreement. The most significant details are as follows. The salary range for all teachers will be between $46,627 to $78,690 in the 23-24 school year, and $47,093 to $79,156 in the 24-25 school year. The parties elected to maintain a salary schedule which will increase by 3% in 23-24 and 1% in 24-25, with smaller step increases for entry-level teachers, which enable FWCS to start those teachers at higher salaries. As teachers progress on the schedule based on evaluation and education, their pay will increase between 5.8% and 9.9% over 2 years. FWCS will continue to compensate teachers for classroom coverage to help manage a substitute teacher shortage and modifications to the program to improve efficiency. FWCS agreed to allow teachers to use 2 days of their personal illness leave for personal business and to expand teachers' eligibility to access the sick leave bank. FWCS will phase out the buy-up health insurance plan at the end of the 24 calendar year. FWCS agreed to increase pay for event workers at varsity football games. FWCS will add boys volleyball and girls wrestling coaches and assistant coaches at the high school level, as well as robotics coaches for schools with those teams. FWCS will also increase compensation for high school cheerleader coaches and show choir directors, and create a social media and website position related to the expansion of those responsibilities. The board will meet on October 23rd, 2023 to ratify the contract as required by law. Public comment will be taken at that meeting. Rose Costello, Executive Director of Human Services, is available to answer any questions. We're now opening a public meeting to discuss the tentative agreement. Allow the board to ask questions or comments. Okay. Anybody have questions or comments, discussion?
What's that exactly mean, create a social media and website position related to the expansion of those responsibilities?
That is an indexed position and additional assignment. The duties were expanded, and so that indexed position was created along with a salary assigned to it, or a payment.
So is that on a building?
That's
Per
within,
building?
yes, within the buildings. Not all, not
So-
all positions, or
So
all.
that's so that's a position that updates social media and websites for the schools and their calendars and things like that?
Correct, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is that going to be per like sport or group or club? Like the show choir will have a social media person?
No,
athletic
that will be per building.
per building. Okay, because that can be a lot.
Right.
So that's a completely separate position, just a social media and website position. Is that?
That is
Be clear?
correct, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, just to be clear, that's a completely brand-new separate position? Or is that
Well-
additional duties to already existing positions?
It is an additional, I think it's an expanded duties, and let me clarify that.
Yeah, it says, oh, it says create.
This was part of some other index positions, and due to the amount of work, they broke that out into its own position.
So it's a
or
new-
index. Pardon?
It's a new paid position. People were probably doing it before on a voluntary
Correct.
basis.
Well,
So
it
now
was
there's
in-
an index position similar to a coach.
Well, it was included in some other index positions, but because of the load, the requirement, we broke that out into its own position now, own index position.
Well, can you help me understand what's an index position? I'm not familiar with that.
It's an additional assignment. It's not a full position. These are additional duties that someone can assume in addition to their primary duties, which includes additional pay.
So if I'm a teacher assistant, that's an index. If I'm the social media coordinator, that's another index?
No, like a coach would be an index position, or a club sponsor, something like that.
And that's per building?
Yes.
In all of our school buildings?
Certain level. Do you recall, Jack, what is that, high school? I'm looking for the document.
Yeah, I know it's high school.
I think it's limited, high school and middle school.
Yeah.
So with that assumption, somebody's doing it at the elementary school then already? It's already,
That's a part of the SIL's responsibility in the elementary schools.
Roads, the 3% and 1% are based on the amount of money we receive from the state.
Correct.
I'm happy to pay them every penny we can.
Us too.
How does that compare to the neighboring districts?
Well, actually, today, the way the current salaries are, we lag behind the 4 districts. With this new 3%, assuming that they will also give a 3%, which we do not know at this time, that puts us at the, East Allen will be at the top, will lead the pack, and will be in the second position. Northwest and Southwest Allen will follow behind us. So we're improving our competitive position.
The last sentence on the one bullet point, or second bullet point, is teachers progress on the schedule based on evaluation and education. Their pay will increase between 5.8 and 9.9% over 2 years. Was that to the whole teacher cohort or just to the new teacher cohort?
That's in the entire schedule. As teachers progress to the next step, there's that percentage of increase as well as the 3% overall. When you combine the two, the step progression as well as the 3%, the increases range anywhere from that 5.8 to that 9.9 throughout the schedule.
How do I grow my step progression then?
How do you grow it?
Yeah, like if I'm a teacher, 8th year, whatever, what gets me to the next step?
Every year you'll move, as long as your performance meets the requirement, every year you'll progress to the next step.
So a combination of time and performance.
Correct, yes.
Kathy, do you know the answer to this question? If you look at the 4 districts in Allen County and our 2 increases put us 4th, does that track with what other districts got from the state? Would we also be 4th with increases we got from the state?
I don't think she was saying that we were 4th. I think you said we were going to be 2nd.
Maybe I heard that wrong.
That is correct. Right now, we're the 4th. Out of all of the school districts, our current starting salary is in the 4th position. However, with the 3% increase, assuming that the other districts give a 3% district, we will then be the second highest.
I understand. So we don't know yet what, what.
Correct.
That's for
different
only
to do it.
starting salaries.
Starting salary, that's correct.
How do we compare on average salary then, compared to their districts?
You know, it's hard to say. I don't have those numbers in front of me. Some districts have more steps, have a higher salary for longer-term employees, so it varies. We traditionally are comparing the starting salary. Some districts pay more for master's degrees, so it varies.
Other questions, comments? Okay. I'm going to close the public meeting to discuss this agreement. Is that all I need to say? Okay. Making sure I dot all my I's. All right. Next up, we have a public hearing on the 24 budgets, capital project plans, and the school bus replacement plan. A public budget presentation was made on September 11, 2023, Board of School Trustees meeting. All board adopted funds and proposed budgets were discussed and estimated tax rates were reviewed. The notice for the capital projects plan and the bus replacement plan were properly advertised on September 11, 2023 on the Indiana Gateway and the FWCS website. According to Indiana law, the school corporation must conduct a public hearing on the budgets, the 3-year capital projects plan, and the 5 years of the bus replacement plan. A hearing is scheduled for this evening's meeting of the Board of School Trustees. The intent of the hearing is to allow board members the opportunity to receive community input. Board members will be asked to vote on these items on October 23rd, 2023. This is the appropriate time for members of the public to address the board regarding the 2024 budgets, the 2024 through 2026 capital project plan, and the 2024 through 2028 school bus replacement plan. If anyone here would like to comment, please come to the microphone. We ask speakers to limit remarks to 1 3-minute session. Okay. As there is no one who wishes to speak, the hearing is now closed. All right. Next up, we have report. Matt Schiebel, Executive Director of Safety and Community Partnerships, will report on recent safety updates. These include facility security updates, the pilot program at Southside High School, the co-curricular security checkpoints, and no bag policy will be discussed. The following will be available for questions. Darren Hess, Director of Facilities, Mike Manuel, Director of Security, Zach Harrell, Principal of Southside High School, Olivia Soto, Student Peacemaker at Southside High School, and Matt Schiebel, Executive Director of Safety and Community Partnerships. Turn it over to you.
And good evening. President Norman, Dr. Daniel, and members of the board. We do have some safety updates for you today. I would also encourage you as we present, if you want to ask questions during the presentation, please feel free to do so. So here's an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. I want to talk about the existing facility upgrades and the progress on those. I want to talk to you about the pilot program that we're running at Southside High School that includes a weapon detection system, student advocates, and a nonprofit peacemakers organization. I want to also talk to you about how we have taken that weapons detection system and done a co-curricular pilot with it, and then also going to talk about our co-curricular no bag policy. So that's where we're going today. And so let's look at what we already have. So the first thing that we know is that our secure vestibules, which is part of our last referendum, are about complete. So by the time we get midway to this year, you'll see that Adams, Forest Park, and Portage will be finished. And by the time we get to August of next year, the remaining schools that are listed there will be finished. So that will bring all of our schools up to date on having secure vestibules. That's a really big step forward, and we appreciate Darren and his team for moving that along. That was something that we pushed forward, and so we thank them for that. Well, we are also in the present time working on applying safety and security film to various parts of the buildings, and you can see that comes from our obligation bond. And that is for all applicable buildings. So some of our buildings already have glass that meet our security requirements. And so for those particular buildings, we don't need the security film. So those are the ones that we will be doing. And then finally, also out of that general obligation bond, we'll be looking at adding the iPhone intercoms, maybe a little bit similar to what you think of as a Ring system, so that we can better see who is buzzing in. If you look at some of our current existing systems, the optics are not always very clear, and so this will bring us up to date. And again, that will be all buildings by the time we get to August of next year. So we're making some good progress in that regard. As we know that we have a safety referendum underway, one of the things we decided that we would do is look at piloting some of the aspects that are asked for in that referendum. We chose Southside High School. You'll hear more detail in the video that we're going to watch, but Southside has been on a mission to improve school safety for the last year, and that mission is not only one that has been undertaken by the staff and administration, but also really by the students of the building. So we thought of all the schools that would be the most receptive and ready to move forward, we thought Southside would be a great place to pilot, and indeed it has been. So we'll talk to you first about the open gate weapon detection system that's present at Southside, and that is not a basic metal detector, so we're not talking about the TSA type of thing. So we chose something that looks for weapons of mass destruction. That's really what we're looking for with this open gate system, because as you can imagine, we have to get students into the building and to class on time. So we didn't want something that was going to be tedious. It's a system that's being used frequently in both Fort Wayne and Indianapolis. It's one of two major systems that have been used, actually the easiest and most economical of the two systems.
I used it in downtown Disney.
Yeah. So it's, downtown Disney has used it. I talked to somebody that recently went through it in Indianapolis. We used it at the Three Rivers Festival. So it really is something that's a common system, and as you probably experienced, pretty easy to get through. We also are going to look at student advocates. We've piloted 2 positions there. That came about from a visit that Mike Manuel and some people made to the Chicago public school system. And then we came back and really made it Fort Wayne's. So we put together a committee that involved assistant principals, school resource officers, members of the Fort Wayne Fire Department, and even one of our students, Olivia Soto, helped make the job requirements for the student advocate. So the student advocate actually mirrors kind of a 2-pronged approach of our referendum, in that we're looking for both well-being as well as increased security. So they have a dual role, and rather than listening to me drone on about it, I think when you see the video and you hear the words from the advocates and Mr. Harrell themselves, you'll get a better appreciation for what they do. Finally, we're going to continue to work with the Peacemakers, which is a nonprofit, the community or volunteer from the Live Community Outreach. So it's a nonprofit organization that's been in Southside already for a year, and we believe that we're going to continue to watch that evolve. But the beauty of the Peacemakers is really at its core, it's student generated. It's about students moving the building to be a more peaceful place. So that's what we're going to see. I invite you now to take in the video, and then I'll talk a little bit about the video when it's done.
So this year, Southside is the first school to have the weapons detection system. And what this system does is it detects whether or not there's a weapon in a bag or on a student or on a person that comes in the building. All the students have to do is take out their laptops, put it on the table, walk back through the weapons detection system, and hopefully it doesn't buzz. And if it does buzz, the office will come in here and make sure that everything is fine. Then you just grab your laptop again and then go to class. One of the main reasons that we have the weapons detection system and the student advocates here at Southside High School is because of the Peacemaker students here that went through the Peacemaker Academy. When I heard that the student advocates would be piloted at Southside High School as part of the safety referendum this year, I was beyond excited. But most importantly, I felt very grateful and I felt very blessed to be part of this movement to create safer schools for our community.
My name's Leotis Key. I'm a student advocate security sub. We do a wide variety of things, from running the open gate system as well as monitoring to the halls. I think our most important thing we do is build a relationship with kids.
Just to try to greet them with a smile each day, ask about their day, and see if I can interact and engage with them on a daily conversations just about what they're feeling and how their days are going, and so I can kind of help them out throughout the day.
A lot of kids come to us with issues, but a lot of the issues they have, they just want to vent those issues. So sometimes it's just good to listen and not answer, and not just talking about school, but talking to kids about what's going on at home and letting them vent. I call my office a safe space, so they can say whatever, however they want, without feeling like they're going to get in trouble. So that's what I like to do. I also help kids not build coping skills, but enhance coping skills that they didn't know they already had.
Ever since school started this year, I personally have utilized both student advocates, Coach Goodwell and Mr. Key. And what I typically do if I see someone struggling or someone who seems a little down, has a head down that normally doesn't, I simply pick up the phone and request that they come to my room. Every single time, and it has been many, that I have used Coach Goodwell and Mr. Key, they come back and they don't say a word, but their entire disposition is way more positive.
So this year we were fortunate enough to be doing a pilot program with our student advocates. The amount of tardies are down for us, our discipline referrals are down, and I think that goes along with our student advocates for sure, and also, you know, our peacemakers. The great thing about peacemakers is it's student-centered. The students come up with some of the ideas of how we can make Southside a peaceful place for all students. And some of the programs that they put in place around nonviolence. And so I think that's a powerful piece with our peacemakers, and students recognizing when maybe something's going to happen, and they let us know, or they talk to their friends and kind of de-escalate a situation as well. But definitely with the advocates, they've had a lot of success stories. They do some de-escalation strategies with them, might pull them into their office for about 15 minutes, have that conversation, whether it's just with an individual or with a pair of individuals, and work things out. And I think that's a great asset to have here in the building as well.
So this is the part of the presentation where I want to brag a little bit, because one of the things that we've talked about in our portrait of a graduate, and my tactic team specifically, involves giving students voice and leadership. So the really cool thing about this video is completely, 100%, completely produced by Portland Community School students. So two of them are here with us tonight. I know Olivia Soto is here, and I know Juan Ruiz is here as well. They're in the back, so I'm going to applaud them. And Leo Wilkinson, he didn't have to show up because we didn't want him showing up in his football pads today. So we also thank Steve Armstrong, who has actually made this an internship program for our students. So they're getting high school credit and learning to actually produce real world material, and quite frankly, told the story fantastically well. So thanks to all of you for doing that and stepping up. So moving along then, we wanted to, knowing that we had the current weapon detection system at Southside, we also wanted to implement a co-curricular weapon detection pilot, where we use the weapon detectors at our big events, our big Friday night football games right now. So we have done that. You can see the dates that we have used them at Northside, Wayne and New Tech, and Northrop. Snyder is coming up. And you saw probably a brief snippet of the video where fans were going through the open gate system. So overall, it's been a very positive experience. I do want to thank my team. I'll thank them later for having to get those weapons detectors to the games and back because they exist at Southside. And so every time we've had to use them, we've had to move them. So thank them in advance. The encouraging news is thus far in the 3 games that we've worked, nobody's had to be removed because they did not pass the weapon detection system. And so one of the things that we've really been mindful for is making sure that we communicate through Parent Square, so parents have been given notice that the detection systems will be in place. We have signage that you can see for the safety checkpoints, and I anticipate that we'll continue to do this for the upcoming basketball season as well. Interestingly, really not had a lot of pushback from people. In fact, it's not uncommon to get 10 or so people that will say thank you for doing this. It's sad that we have to, but they do express thanks for having that happen. I don't know that I would necessarily say the same thing about the co-curricular bag policy. That is new to our district. Again, one of the things we try to do is message that, and so we do thank Krista's team and also printing shop. We've tried to make it as explicit as possible, and so we've even created signage that has the exact bag size. So, you know, if you want to check to see if your bag is allowable, these are posted on sandwich boards for when you come in. So, some people have not been particularly happy about that, but again, one of the things that we want to say is the policies that we use come directly from professional sports teams. They come from college sports teams, and so if fans at professional games and events deserve that level of safety, then so do our kids. I went to a concert last night at the Clyde, and of course I had to empty my pockets and everything else. So it's just becoming a way of life, and we have to provide our kids the same things that everybody else deserves. So do appreciate people being patient with that. We're going to continue to do that. That's going to be our step moving forward for all of our high schools. So, as always, I'm kind of a big thank you person, so I do want to thank some people because this has been definitely some implementation of practices that we have not done ever before. And so certainly I want to thank our team, Mike Manuel, Tom Miller, and Ora Blunt. I thought I knew what Mike Manuel did before he took this job, and now that I have taken this job, I'm amazed by the wealth of knowledge that he has, because security is a big deal. I want to thank Dr. Robbins because she's always there to listen to suggestions and offer wise counsel. And speaking of counsel, thanking David Amon for putting all of these policies in writing so they're very explicit. Big shout out to Zach Harrell and his Southside administrative team because the pilot is difficult. We had to practice 6 days before we even turned the machines on. And his administrative team have been rock stars in setting everything up and making sure that even though we have weapons detectors, it doesn't feel like a police state. You know, it's constantly assuring the kids that we're doing this for your safety. We're not trying to catch you doing something wrong. Just want to make sure that you're as safe as you can possibly be. Andre Goodwell and Leota Ski are 2 advocates. Brand new position. We anticipate using them to train our future advocates if we end up in a position that way. And so they're doing a great job, and we're learning from them as well. And they have a heavy lift. We've said several times that they average about 20,000 steps a day because they are in the hallways all the time working with kids. I want to thank Darren and Pete because to get those weapons detection systems to the ball games, we have to go to Catalpa and pick up a truck or 2 and load them, and so they've been very helpful with that. Angelo and Chris with Live Community Outreach, they are the people that have coordinated the Peacemakers from last year, now going on 2. And Melissa Richards and her well-being department have provided specific professional learning on the well-being side for our advocates. So that brings to a conclusion, and if you have questions, we have the people described here. So you've got a principal, a student, and a security person here that are ready and willing to answer your questions. The encouraging thing that we do say, and then I'll wrap it up, is that tentative data shows that it's working. So as we look at attendance data, as we look at disciplinary data, we can start to see that Southside's moving in the right direction.
So that would be my question.
Yep.
What exactly, I mean, you said that it looks like it's moving in the right direction. Do you have any numbers?
I do have numbers. So one of the things that I've been tracking is data that I would assume that the presence of either a weapons detector or, more importantly, an advocate would do. So let me give you an example. In 22-23, and the enrollment numbers from 22-23 are 6% less than the numbers this year. So I want you to keep in mind that I'm giving you raw numbers, but there are 87 more kids this year at Southside than last. So last year, and these are year-to-year comparisons. So as a former principal, I always looked at, apples to apples. So this is day 40 this year compared to day 40 last year. Last year, they had written 80 referrals at this time for tardies. This year, 9. And again, remember that 9 is with 87 more kids. Last year, they wrote 111 referrals for cutting class. This year, 83. Last year, we had 2 instances of BB/pellet guns. This year, 0. Last year, we had 1 object represented to be a gun. This year, 0. Last year, we had 26 occurrences of fighting. This year, 18. And last year, we had 70 incidences of disruptive conduct. This year, 59. The peacemakers have shared some data where they have said that this year, 31 of 38 days at Southside was without a fight, where last year it was 26 out of 38. The other thing that the peacemakers do is they set a goal for how many continuous days of peace. So last year, there were 3 times in the entire year where they went 10 days without a fight. So 3 times in the entire year, a 10-day span without a fight. And the first time they reached that 10-day goal was October 20th. This year, same time period, only 40 days in, there have already been 2 times just in the first 40 days, right? Now remember last year, it was 3 times the entire year. There have been 2 times in a 10-day period where there are no fights. They reached the first one August 30th and the second one October 4th. So those are probably the most striking pieces of data. Our advocates are busy. They have made so far a total of 1,996 student contacts. They have visited 151 classrooms. They've mediated 38 different conflicts. They've contacted 7 parents, worked with the administrative team 122 times, and provided academic support for students 86 times. So we have them log what they're doing in their activities so that we can keep track. So that data, for example, we see the parent contact has only been 7 so far. So we know one of the things we want to do with them is encourage and facilitate them to make more of those contacts, both of things that might be concerns, but also when some of their students are doing well.
Do they do home visits?
They do not.
Is that
Because
intended or
because
thought
the
of?
point is, I'm sorry to interrupt you, the point is we want to keep them in the building. If they're making home visits, then they're not in the building. They need to be present. That's a good question. We have other personnel for home visits.
Are we measuring student well-being or something that asks them, do I feel safer? This is a good place to be.
We will, as part of our K-12 Insight, but that usually takes place at a later time. But the nice thing about that is we'll be able to compare that data when we do that back several years. And yeah, certainly that's something critical because the whole point of what we're trying to get the advocates to do specifically, that wellness piece is as big or even more important than the security part.
A student that just feels comfortable and not in harm's way, or whatever those questions are that measure that.
There'll be a lot of questions. That's a detailed survey, and I know Dr. Daniels picks people to make sure that students take it and that it's completed with fidelity. So,
Matt, could you talk a little bit more about, what do the peacemakers, what do those students actually do? How do they engage and what kind of activities?
Yeah. So there are different components to it. There's actually a Peacemaker Academy. That's a 3-week program in the summer where we try to identify some of those leaders We already have, most other schools have participants in it. In fact, Northrop High School, I believe, is really moving towards a Peacemaker program as well. There's a variety of things that they do. So they showcase peace. You probably saw the flowers that were hanging in the Commons area. That was, again, to remind students of the losses of life due to gun violence. But we also use them in collaboration with the administrators to help mediate student conflicts and to help bring about like an awareness of peace. So one of the things that we've talked about that we want to see them increase is, that's a big celebration that we've already had 2 10-day periods. What we want to do, and Zach and I had this discussion last week, is we want to make sure that we get that data up so kids can see it too. I mean, they should be proud of that data. Nobody likes collecting a lot of data until it tells you things are going great, right? And so kids need to do that. I think, though, Julie, to your point, we want to continue looking at what that role of the peacemakers are in collaboration with our student advocates. So, for example, prior to school starting, the advocates and the peacemakers actually met. And come on up here. It's your program. Why am I talking? People are tired of my voice already. Tell them what. So Olivia, in addition to helping write the referendum, helping videotape this production, is also a member of the Peacemaker. So she would be more apt to speak to your question than I will.
Okay, yeah. So actually, this is going to be the 3rd year of Peacemaker Academy this past summer. I was in the first year in 2021. So yeah, that was like going into sophomore year. And what we learned, it's a 3-week program in the summer through live community outreach, and we learned like nonviolent tactics to handle conflicts with other students that we might face in the building, or to help encourage other students in the building to handle their conflicts with nonviolence and to not have any more fights or even just yelling or getting the police involved or anything. So at the school, what we do is we have a peace club for students at Southside who are not a part of the academy. That was in the summer, but so that they can learn about nonviolence on their own with the peace club after school. Other things we do is there's always morning announcements and afternoon announcements with a peacemaker. We share the peace count, like how many days we've gone without fighting. We share other data and other like the club days, other events that the peacemakers might host. We've had a lot of speakers come into the school. We just got done with our Peace Week. This was the 2nd year we've had Peace Week. Which was every day was like a different fun theme. Kids could dress up like Culture Day to try to involve everybody at Southside. And then each day on the announcements, we gave more specific and detailed facts about nonviolence and about different types of violence to just inform students who are not part of the academy or the club, but to try to create like everyone at Southside to feel like they are a part of the Peacemakers. So that's pretty much what the Peacemakers have done so far at Southside.
How are the Peacemakers chosen?
So the first year it was new, so it was just like the student guidance counselors gave some names to Life Community Outreach, and then they interviewed them. So then the 2nd year, it was kind of Chris, who is part of a Life Community, he just went to Southside, talked to a bunch of kids, tried to get the name out, the word out about if they were interested in making a difference. And then they went through an interview process. So I think Angelo and Chris were a part of the interview process, and they interviewed a handful of kids. And then the 2nd year, well, the 1st and 2nd year, it was only going to be 12 students, majority, try to get both men and women. And then this past year, we included Northside and Northrop. So they expanded it to, I think, like, do you know how many students? It was more than 12. It was, I think, around like 20 maybe. And to try to include, those 3 high schools now. So it's just through an interview process.
Can you tell us how many students have joined your Peace Club at Southside?
The Peace Club? It ranges because it's like meeting, because I've been a few of the like meetings. It's like every Thursday after school. But I would definitely say like
over 50, including all the peacemakers plus a lot of other students. And that's how some of the students got to be involved with the academy, was through the club last year. So
That's awesome.
Do you see a difference this year with your student advocates and the open gate weapons detection and things like that? Can you feel a difference at Southside?
Yes, so I have, this is my senior year, and since I was part of it my sophomore year as the first year with Peacemakers, and we've always been trying to push that, like making a difference, trying to get students more involved with the admin in the school. This year with having the student advocates and just seeing and hearing too on the video like how much like contact they've been making with the students and how the teachers have been relying on them. It's just been a great just like thing to see. And I have talked to Coach Goodwell personally too before he became an advocate, and it was in the weight room actually with the football players, and he was really like supportive of me. And so when I heard he was going to be an admin, I was really excited because I knew him, and he just has this like radiant energy that the kids, like, you know, they're always giving him high fives and stuff in the hallway. So it's definitely a lot more positive with them.
That's good to hear.
So you're a fourth year senior, right?
Yeah.
You've been at Southside all these years.
Yeah. I'm
going to go out on a limb. I'm going to ask you a question. I see a thing about attorneys never ask a question you don't know the answer to, but I hope I get the answer I want to hear. You felt safe at Southside these last 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel safer this year?
Yes.
And why would you say that is?
I would just say because there's been like extensive measures taken with the detectors. That's a great part, just seeing, because I come in, because I have half days with the internship, so I come in when I see like just like maybe parents coming to pick up their children going through it too, because you know there's people we don't know that come into school, and then also just the advocates knowing that it's helping kids' mental health, just having like more positivity in the hallways. So just those two things combined, I've already felt a lot safer there.
So I'm guessing, again, another question I don't for sure know the answer, but the tardy skipping, guns and fights, that's not Olivia, right? But your classmates are getting those experiences, and what do you see as a peer of theirs, the impact of having those student advocates?
As
a peer of a kid that just got in a fight, let's say, that you may know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so normally, I'm not exactly sure normally what happens, but we do have a peace room like that we interviewed Leotis in, where a lot of the times students who were in a conflict, maybe they either go to the office or they go into the peace room. They talk to like Chris or the advocates more personally, more like in depth, so that they feel heard about what happens. So I think if I were to know somebody who was in a fight, I would feel reassured that they were taken care of mentally and not just like, oh, they got a referral, they're getting sent home. It's more of like, okay, what's going on at home? Like, are you okay mentally? Stuff like that.
And so as I understood from the video, you've been a part of this process for a while now?
Yeah, it was my first year, or I was a first year peacemaker, so 3 years peacemaker, and then I was recently part of the political action committee, and the one before that that helped create the student advocates.
Well, thank you for all your service, but the question is, do you see this student, so recently the Journal-Gazette posted a very nice op-ed, but they asked, what about these student advocates? How would you, and as Mr. Schiebel said, part of this is we have to tell a story. Mm-hmm. How would you share with the community, us, other people, the value impact of student advocates? Are they valuable, number one? And then how would you translate that into what the impact means to you as a student?
Okay, well, yeah. I would say 100% they're very valuable, even just having 2 of them in our school. And the impact I've seen on the students, like I was mentioning earlier, was just the more vibrant feelings. Like beforehand, especially with COVID, my COVID year was freshman year, like everybody their head was down on their phones, earbuds in, like, you know, you didn't look at anybody. And now it's more of like, you know, you walk through, you smile, you wave, you high five people. I talk to the advocates sometimes, even now after interviewing them, they talk to me, and it's more of like you feel seen and present at the school. You're not just there to learn, you're there making connections, and you're in this community at Southside, especially having those adults. And I feel like they're not really looked at as admin or as adults. They're just like, they just share a different perspective with the students from their views, and the students' views give advice, you know. So I feel like the impact it's had on the students has been great, even with us being in school for only 1 quarter.
Thank you.
So you're probably asking at this point, why didn't I just have Olivia do it?
Olivia, you are delightful, first of all, and your communication skills are superb. And again, like Mr. Schiebel was saying, we're grateful for you to be a part of our schools, but also a wonderful communicator in getting that message out to our community. I'm grateful that my other board member had asked you to explain more, because I think hearing from you really drives home the point of what we're trying to do. And that is impact our students. And I think you've done a wonderful job tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to make sure, Olivia's not a Hollywood actress, she's actually a student.
Not yet, not yet.
I told Olivia she was going to have to potentially answer a question. I didn't realize she was going to take over. That should come as no surprise for me.
You know,
I think the thing that resonates with me the most, and then I will go away so you can go home and have dinner, is really seeing like why Portrait of a Graduate makes sense. Why it's important to listen to students, and not only listen to them, but to put them in charge of things that actually make a difference in their education. And she's had 3 distinct leadership opportunities, and when she speaks so eloquently, it's not just because she's a good student, it's because she's been at it at the ground level and been part of it. So she can speak it as well as any adult, because we gave her the ability to have a presence in her own education.
What a novel idea to empower students, huh?
Yeah.
So as we redesign high schools,
yep,
this is an absolute essential element of that redesign work.
100%. This is what it looks like when we scale it across the district. That's what it will look like.
What's the name of that book, Mr. Superintendent? Trust and Inspire?
Well, Mr. Harlan, I don't want to get off the hot seat. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Harlan, remind us, you are a Southside graduate, right?
I am a Southside graduate, parent of 2 Southside students, and now the principal of Southside.
And so I assume I'm going to ask that same question. Did you and your family feel safe at Southside High School prior to this year?
Of course, that's why we chose Southside.
And you feel safer this year?
I think all of our families feel safer, and our students feel safer as well.
So as a parent, what do you see the impact of the student advocate being in the changes that we've done at Southside proposed throughout the district?
I think it's really a combination of all 3 assets. The open gate, we had those at our public meetings last year. Before we even installed them, we had them at registration. We had them at our transition day for 9th graders coming in. And really, it was just positive feedback from parents. I think families like ourselves already felt safe at Southside, but it was just an added feature of safety, and I think they appreciated that. And then, with our student advocates, they've been great, honestly. I think the testimonial from, you hear the data, but our testimonial from our students, from our teachers, they're an advocate really for all of us. And the number of steps that they get in on a daily basis is crazy. I think they probably have to use a couple extra belt buckles just because of the amount of steps, 25, 30,000 steps a day. But they're really building those relationships with our students. And I think that's the biggest piece. Students feel safe and comfortable coming to them if they have an issue at home, if they have an issue at school. And they take the time to get to know the kids and then to help work through those problems with them. So I think that's been huge for us. The combination of then having the student voice within the Peacemaker Academy and the club, and we're just continuing to expand that. We meet regularly with the Peacemakers just to think of ideas of how else our students can generate ideas for our building to become even more safer.
What about you as a principal? What are some of these tools like the Peacemaker Academy, in particular, the open gate, and then the student advocates, if you could talk about that last. What's the impact of those portions of the program to you as a principal mean?
I think, they're just an added support that we didn't have before that makes all of our jobs a lot easier. I think anytime that our students get involved in decision-making, as we've talked about here with Olivia, but she's just one of many in our building that their voices are being heard, and they're coming up with the ideas, and then it's just upon us adults to implement them. But I think altogether, it's just been great having the support. The Open Gate, we were a little hesitant about the whole process, but worked through it. As you saw it on the video, that is in our secure vestibule. After our morning routine happens, we move them into there. And we don't even have to have an adult in there. The students just know, and the adults know they have to place their computer on there and walk through, and that process is seamless. At the beginning of the day, us administration, including the student advocates, are there to greet our students. They pass their computers to us, and the line goes quickly. We haven't had any holdups in the morning. We haven't had any long lines of students that are waiting outside to try and get in. The system is that fast, and so it's been great. The company itself said we would probably have about 15% of hits with the bag searches just for any items, umbrellas or anything like that. We're averaging like 4 or 5 a day. And so we've gotten into the routine. The students have gotten into the routine. They know the items they have to pass to us that won't set it off, umbrellas and eyeglass cases and computers. So it's been seamless, the whole process has.
So back to the advocates, that was a question again over the weekend about what's the value of that in the Journal Gazette, which is a fair question for us to answer. What would your answers be? What is the value of the advocates? Other than walking and them getting their steps in, if we had to lose a piece, or we have to just, how important a piece is this?
I think it's very important because without them, I don't know that the other two pieces are possible. And so with the Open Gate system, they're there every morning with us, running those machines. It takes adults to run those. You can't just set them up and think they're going to run by themselves. So that additional adult presence there that are trained make that process happen. And so that means the rest of us administration might be a part of that. They might be other parts in the building that we still have to make that are secure as well. So without them, I don't know that that's possible, without the additional people. And then some of the programs that the peacemakers are wanting to put in place, without the additional support of those student advocates in that peace room, doing some of those mediations. Those aren't things in our daily routine as administrators that we have the time to do, unfortunately, because we're running the building. But they do, and they take the time to, I think, de-escalate things that maybe have happened outside of school that students bring with them into the school. And I think it's helped us reduce the number of incidents that we would have possibly had.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your attention and all your great questions.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Okay, that brings us to board member comments. I will briefly pause as Steve. Okay, Steve has given a pass. Julie, board comments?
Well, really great presentation tonight. When we talk about school safety and security, there's equipment, and then there's also people. I really, really like the idea of getting students engaged and, like you said, empowered to assist in their own safety. It's their building. It's 4 years of their lives, and it's just as important to students as it is to staff. I really like that Peacemaker program, and I'm hopeful we'll be able to expand that to all of our, is it high schools and middle schools that we're planning on doing that?
High schools first.
Okay, high schools first, high school first. And I think it'll be really good for the students who have already been peacemakers at Southside. And Olivia, maybe we can get you back for a summer to help train, peacemakers at the other high schools. And then, of course, the student advocates. There's, like Mr. Harrell said, there's a heck of a lot that goes on in a school, and it's to have two people whose sole responsibility is not only safety and security of the building, but well-being and safety and security of students. And and who don't, and this is no knock on law enforcement, because I am very grateful for the partnership that we have at Fort Wayne Community Schools and our SROs, but to have somebody who's not law enforcement be in that student advocate role, I think is also important. I mean, I think it's a great total approach, and hoping that it's something that the public will say, you know, we like this and we need, you know, we need to expand it.
Right. I just want to say thank you for that presentation as well. I think it's, for me, hearing Olivia talk about it was what our community needs to hear. Our children are empowered, and we need to hear more from them about how they feel. And I think that was a wonderful, thank you for being here tonight, Olivia. A few weeks back, I had a shout out and he wasn't here, so I just wanted to make sure that he hears my message. Mike Manuel, you are, part of this referendum is to have more people on your staff. And the fact that we have 52 buildings, 30,000, close to 30,000 students and 4,000 employees that Mike has been in charge of with a staff of basically 2 others is amazing that that we have that. So part of the referendum is adding staff for Mike, but I can tell you that, as Mr. Schiebel put it out there, that Mike does amazing things on a daily basis that we all have no idea what he's doing. But I was able to sit in a meeting with him on a couple of questions that I had, and the amount of things that are going on and the moving pieces every day, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for keeping my children safe, and our teachers safe, and our staff and our employees. So thank you very much. I hope that we can support you better in the future with what's coming up. And to completely change notes, but last week was Principal for the Day, and a shout out to my Lindley Lions. I was in the elementary school with Dr. Jen Nickel for the day, and I have to tell you that I was there for the car line, and every one of those students got out happy. They were happy. They were happy to be at school. They ran in, gave you high fives. The vibe at that school is amazing. If you've ever met Dr. Nickel, you can see her exuberance come out from her outfits that she wears to her fun glasses and everything else. But that's throughout the whole school day. I noticed that throughout the whole school day. And I just wanted to say thank you for having me in for the day and letting us see what a wonderful day they had at Lindley.
That's interesting, because that's the exact same thing I found at Lincoln. I got to spend the day with J.R. Ankenbrook, and that's what impressed me most. You know, he stood out there as the students came in and greeted him, and they all knew who he was, and they all, you know, high-fived him or said something to him, or, you know, you could tell that they had already established a really great relationship with all the students. And this occurred throughout the day. He had to go out to do recess duty, and you know, you could just tell he had already built a relationship with all these children. And so that was really a neat thing to see. And of course, thank you to the Anthus Culinary Arts students for our delicious lunch that day. And I think those are all my comments.
Thanks, Sam. Raleigh?
I just want to echo what Julie and Jennifer said about Mr. Manuel and Mr. Schiebel. And Olivia, you did an amazing job. I remember us sitting in meetings and discussing what we wanted in the student advocates, the hopes of it being someone who would form those relationships and provide security, and to see the video and to get the numbers, to see that it's actually working. It's amazing, so I'm really glad about that. I think it's a great investment of time and resources, and thank you to Southside for being the ones to pilot the peacemakers and the detectors and the student advocates. So excited about that. That's all I have.
I'll echo what Raleigh and Jennifer and Julie and everyone said. Thank you, Olivia. You did a wonderful job. I think it's very timely we had this on I know we planned these way in advance, but the Journal-Gazette op-ed was very good yesterday, and I thought very, very right to ask the question. And something I think the community wonders and we wondered. And to hear you, Olivia, and Mr. Harrell, and Mr. Schiebel, and Mike, double down and say, this is working, look what 40 days has done. Give us this opportunity, community, and see, give us 8 years and really watch what we can do. I'm excited to see that. Yes, I'm wearing a different white T-shirt, the Waynedale Olympians, it's called. I got to spend the day last week with Principal Christy Hoffner and her team, and had a wonderful day at Waynedale Elementary. The other thing is, if anybody questions, I guess, how we do things, with the referendum dollars, go to Waynedale. We just finished up our schoolwork there from the referendum money that we used, and I was blown away. It was beautiful. The building looks great, Darren. Your team does an awesome job, as usual. And the Sodexo woman, of course, everybody says it's about their person, but she was the best, she said. And, the facility is great. As Jennifer said, the kids came with a smile. Mrs. Hoffner knew every kid, at least we came across. They were very proud of one of their students is our model, so to speak, for Portrait of a Graduate. And just a great fun day at Waynedale Elementary. Good day to be an Olympian. Thank you.
Dr. Daniel?
So first of all, thank you, Steve Armstrong, for mentoring the students. I think that touch is evident. Again, as we empower our kids, our young adults, our soon-to-be graduates, it tells us that we're doing something right. Also, Zach, your leadership at Southside, it's very evident. And as I've said, principals can make or break programs, implementation, and I think you've embraced this and you made it your own. It's very evident. So also, Matt, and what you're doing in this area as well, preparing us for hopefully the future. And the evidence is there. So as we discussed this morning on WOBO, it's evident, and it's going to make a difference in Fort Wayne Community Schools. But again, I also turn the wellness, our well-being, or that part of it, Portrait of a Graduate, when we have students who are part of the restorative practice process, it makes a difference. And we hope this not only centers or forms in the building, but also starts to have an outreach into our neighborhoods and our greater community. So again, things coming together, it's wonderful to see. I think we have a board right here that's smiling, a nice wide smile. But again, we know how important it is to make these things happen at the grassroots level. That's where the work happens. And so very, very proud to be a Fort Wayne Community Schools employee tonight. Thank you.
Well, I'll echo all the thank yous and gratitude to everyone. This is always a big undertaking. I was lucky enough to get to go to both a national conference and then a state conference for school boards. And it was being a little fish in a big pond at the national conference with school districts like Houston and LA and Denver. But then at the state association conference, we're the big dog. And so to talk about the work that we get done every day and the number of students and the number of lives that we touch, I'm just always so proud to be a part of the school board and a graduate of the district and a parent within the district. So thank you all for the work that you do. I was able to spend the day with Mr. Crozier at Memorial Park. All of you know that I spend a lot of time there anyway. So I was kind of surprised that he asked, but I learned a lot. I got to see the what they call pirate time, so their resource time for 25 minutes that they do in the morning. It was nice to see them what looked like a very simple, let's put together a paper chain and see whose is the longest at 7:20 in the morning. But what I saw was collaboration and students talking. And that is something that brings joy to my heart, especially being the mother of an only child. I sometimes wonder if we are speaking to our son enough, and so it's good to know that he's encouraged conversation, ideas, teamwork, all those things. But learned a lot, got to see Naviance a little bit closer, got to witness middle school lunch for the first time since I was at Portage. So that was interesting. Got to see my kid a couple times and embarrass him. So, and then, like Ann mentioned, just want to say thank you to the Anthos Career Center. The culinary arts students, lunch was amazing. But thank you, Memorial Park, for your hospitality. It's always fun to go in and see behind the scenes. So,
Oh,
yes.
one more thing I forgot to say. Junior Achievement needs volunteers. I went to pick up my bag for JA in a Day today, and Janae told me to share with everyone that they definitely need volunteers. So get in contact with Junior Achievement. You can do JA in a Day, go visit a classroom, spend a day in a classroom, or sign up to do multiple weeks where you just spend a few hours in a classroom too.
There you go. Get your community service hours in. All right. I think that's all of board member comments. Would anyone like to?
Move we adjourn, Madam President.
Thanks, Noah. Thanks, Raleigh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Ghost.